Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we'll be making my all-time favorite prawn rissois. Now this is my favorite go-to snack when I visit Goa, but I've been craving this dish quite a lot lately, so I thought, why not recreate this dish and enjoy it in the UK as well. So in today's video I'll be taking you first through making the rooks. The rooks is now the filling for the prawn rissois, and then we'll go on to making the dough. And I prefer personally making my very own homemade breadcrumbs, and I leave in a link for that recipe as well. But if you prefer, you can always use store-bought breadcrumbs as well. They taste the same literally, but I just prefer making them myself at home. So to start us off, we'll require the following ingredients for the rooks. In a heated pan, we'll take about a teaspoon of oil and then add in the onions. So at this point I prefer adding in the salt, so the onions start to release their moisture, and this makes the onions cook a bit faster. So you need to cook the onions until they are translucent and brown, and then add in the prawns. It's always best to marinate the prawns with some ginger garlic paste and some salt at least 30 minutes before you start cooking the dish. We want to make sure that we thoroughly cook the prawns, and this could take about 4 to 5 minutes. With our prawns nearly done, we can then add in the garlic for added flavor, followed by some chopped spring onions. Raw spring onions can give a very bitter taste, hence you want to cook your spring onions until they become soft and break down. So the next step would be to make the creamy sauce. For that we'll need about 2 tablespoons of butter. So I've combined 1 tablespoon of plain flour with 1 cup of milk. This is to avoid any lumps forming in the mixture. If you're using a salted butter, I would suggest that you reduce the amount of salt that you add to the dish. At this point, we want to make sure that the gas is on a low flame and that we're stirring the mixture continuously. So when our mixture begins to thicken, that's when we know that our sauce is ready, and then we can add in the prawns to the sauce. Keep stirring the prawns on a low flame until the mixture begins to thicken, and once that's ready we can pop it aside and leave it to cool down completely. So that's our filling ready for the prawn rissois, and now we can go on to making the dough. For that we'll require the following ingredients. So we'll start off by taking 1 cup of water followed by a teaspoon of salt. Next we need to add 2 tablespoons of butter, and we need to bring the water to a boil. Next we need to add in 2 cups of plain flour. Make sure to add in the flour bit by bit and keep stirring the mixture continuously. And once all of the flour is added to the hot boiling water, we can then turn off the gas. So this method is actually called scalding. So by adding flour to boiling hot water, it activates a chemical reaction called gelatinization. And as we know, wheat flour is composed of proteins, starch, lipids, sugars and enzymes. So instead of being absorbed by the protein, the hot water is absorbed into the starch molecules, and this creates a dough that is extremely soft and light. So at this point the dough is very hot, so we want to give it a couple of minutes to cool down before we start kneading the dough. And we will knead the dough for a few minutes until it all starts to come together. So when you start to roll out the dough, we need to make sure that we keep turning and flipping the dough. This is to prevent the dough from sticking to the rolling board. And we need to keep doing this until we are happy with the thickness. But we do not want it to be too thick as well. We need to try and make it as thin as 2 paper sheets together if possible. So when we deep fry the rissois, the outside layer will have a very delicate crunch and the inside will be nice and soft. So to cut out the circles, you can use a circular cookie cutter. I didn't have one, so I've used a lid of a jar to cut out the circles. Usually you can get about 4 circles, and we can reuse the extra bits by kneading them and repeating the same process again. Next, we'll move on to the filling for the prawn rissois. So we'll take about half a teaspoon of the rooks and place it in the center, and then dab the rims with some water. Fold the pastry into half and press the rims down firmly. And then dunk the pastry into the egg wash. And finally toss it into the breadcrumbs for the final coating. Repeat the same process for the rest of the rissois. Once you have prepped all the rissois, the next step would be to deep fry them, and we want to make sure that the oil is nice and hot. To test this, you can pop a wooden spatula in the oil and it will begin to sizzle, and that's when you know your oil is ready. So we want to make sure that we turn the flame down so that the rissois cook thoroughly, and we also can start flipping them at this point just to make sure that they don't get burnt or overcooked on one side. And you're looking for what you're looking for is a golden brown color, and that's when you know your rissois are ready. So there you go guys, my Goan Prawn Rissois are finally ready. I can assure you they are lip smacking good. I've already had a couple, and hence I can assure you they are absolutely spot on. So do give my recipe a try guys, and I will see you next time.